Well, welcome back to this series, The Stars of Steel. This is a video in which I'll be looking at the life and career of Sarah Jory, a female steel guitarist from Great Britain. And I want to feature at least one female steel guitarist here in the first 10 videos that I'm doing, as I'm trying to think of a way to create a framework for the world of the steel guitar as a whole. There are other female steelers, actually, and I'll feature some of them in time, but let's start with Sarah Jory, because she's made a big splash in the world of steel guitar in the last 20 years. The last 30 years, really. She's also become the most viewed steel guitarist on YouTube, actually. She's got about 10 to 20 million views currently. YouTube has played such a big role in the steel guitar world and in the interconnectivity of steel guitarists across the globe. One of the primary key resources that steel guitarists use for learning and for also connecting with other steel guitarists. So it's had an incredible impact on the world of steel guitar. And Sarah Jory was one of those artists that really made a big splash on YouTube early on, in the early days of YouTube. She's performed as a blues artist, a rock artist. She's no doubt performed internationally probably as much, if not more, than any other steel guitarist, except for maybe Robert Randolph. She performs to a lot of non-steel guitar audiences as well, which makes her story kind of unique and interesting. And I think Sarah is even somewhat controversial, actually, for the way that she performs on stage. So I'm really as interested to read the comments, hear what you think about Sarah Jory, as I am to even make this video, truthfully. So let's take a look at Sarah Jory and find out who exactly she is and how she made her mark on a steel guitar. Like Lloyd Green and like Paul Franklin before her, Sarah was a child prodigy on the steel guitar, and she seemingly began playing a non-pedal six-string steel around age 5. So she went to a Don Williams concert at age 7. Don Williams playing there in England on tour. He's got Lloyd Green with him playing steel, and Sarah describes in an interview hearing the pedal steel for the first time at this Don Williams concert, and she's mesmerized by it. Well, after the show, her father ends up seeing Lloyd Green somewhere around the arena, and Lloyd meets Sarah there and shows her the pedal steel guitar and lets her play it for the first time and encourages her to begin playing pedal steel. And of course, you know, we know Lloyd is a very gracious, very sweet man, and so this story fits in nicely with the idea that we have of Lloyd Green, collectively speaking. She does learn the steel. She becomes quite a good player, and she was actually invited to Scotty's International Steel Guitar Convention at age 13. So I guess the story goes she plays on the Talent Search stage on the Thursday night that year. It's going to be about 1982 or 1983, if my math is right on that. And Buddy Emmons hears her playing. He's at the convention, hears her playing. He invites her to join him on his main stage set that weekend. And that's going to be her big moment, where she's really introduced to the world of the steel guitar in a big way, and just a really cool journey that she's on as a young kid, you know. After that performance, her and her father meet Lloyd again. He's there at the convention as well, and he comes up and talks to them and asks if she was the same little girl that he remembered meeting in England like 4 years before, who had never heard of pedal steel before. And sure enough, yeah, they were like, yeah, that was us that you talked to. Lloyd ends up giving her this little case that he carries his picks in his bar in with his initials on it. And to this day, she carries that case around and uses it on stage in her show. So just a really cool beginning of this journey into the world of steel guitar for Sarah Jory. And she's introduced and embraced by the steel guitar community, as you can see, in a big way. Sarah is releasing albums. She's releasing instrumental records, which we'll talk about in her discography. But she's also playing as a session steel guitarist in England. She starts singing and writing her own songs. As far as I can tell, in the 1990s, she becomes kind of a star of her own show, basically. So she's gone from this girl who learns the Hawaiian lap steel, then the pedal steel guitar, kind of takes the steel world by storm in her own little way as an international artist, don't forget. And then she's transitioning into becoming like a singer-songwriter, a front person on stage, which is not always a place that steel guitarists feel comfortable because, after all, the steel guitar is an accompanying instrument in most cases, and a lot of steel guitarists take an accompanying role. They're not all of them are cut out for the spotlight, the limelight, as a center stage artist themselves. Then into the late 90s and early thousands, Sarah is carved out this show that's almost kind of like a Vegas-style show in which she's the entertainer. She has a band of guys that are backing her up. She's playing banjo, she's playing slide blues guitar, she's playing the pedal steel. She might even be playing mandolin, perhaps, in one of these videos. And she's dancing and running around the stage, and it's like a real show that she's putting on. But it's not that country anymore. It's actually much more of like a European blues rock show, rather. And one of the clips from one of those concerts is the clip online that you can see of her that has like 10 or 12 million views. And you can see that she's quite comfortable in the limelight. Of course, Barbara Mandrell comes to mind here, right? But I don't know how big of an influence that Barbara was on Sarah Jory. I can't really say, but there are definitely similarities in terms of their showmanship, their showwomanship, and their fondness for the limelight and playing many different instruments. But in recent years, it does seem that Sarah has really peeled back that kind of style show. I believe that she's also had quite a bit of health issues, as I understand. And as a result, her physical appearance has changed dramatically. It's not uncommon for people to look different over the course of 20 years or so, but she is almost unrecognizable at times now compared to what she looked like as a young woman in the 80s and 90s video clips you can see of her on YouTube. She might have been dealing with some inflammation issues. I'm speculating here, but something has contributed to her appearance just changing. Her live show seems to have come full circle all of a sudden, and it's a bit more reminiscent now of her earlier years, more country-based, a bit more of her as a steel guitarist, a little less of the singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist. I'm seeing more clips of her now playing the pedal steel, playing at country halls, playing at conventions, and playing more as a steel guitarist rather than like a rock star. She's been on stage in front of audiences from 1980 to 2025. She's had some big non-country gigs, including playing with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in England. She has backed up Cyndi Lauper and toured extensively with Van Morrison. So it's quite an amazing career that she's created for herself as one of the world's foremost female steel guitarists. Sarah's trademark style and sound. Well, in terms of her actual sound or actual style, what I can tell you is that she's currently endorsed by Mullen guitars. Presently, she plays an E9 Mullen single neck on a double neck body, and she's got 4 floor pedals. She plays the backwards A-B setup, which I believe is called the Day setup, the Jimmy Day setup. And basically, it's the fourth and the third pedal that she uses as the A and B pedals, which is just backwards from the number 1 and number 2 pedal normally playing those roles. And I guess that the reason that she plays that way is because the first pedal steel she ever learned on was set up incorrectly. This doesn't really change her sound, but it is an interesting aspect of her style and her playing. She's also an endorsed Peavey artist. One thing that Sarah has always liked to do with her sound is experiment. She really likes to use an EBow. She's made that a big part of her show. She especially likes to use that on her rendition of the Titanic theme song, which has been a part of her show for quite a few years. According to her, she does not play with amp reverb. Gets all of her reverb out of a Boss digital delay pedal. She plays with an active floor pedal, a Boss digital delay, and straight into the amp. She uses George L. E66 pickups. When she's playing country music, I would say that her sound is about as traditional and as authentic country as you're going to hear. And she's playing a lot of Bakersfield style stuff, very fast, blocking and fast picking. She definitely likes the theatrics of playing. Her physicality is something that I think people go kind of either way on, really. Like, you know, Buddy Emmons was a physical player when he played the steel, and he certainly used that sparingly. It's not something that he purposefully really kind of put into his show. It was a very natural part of who he was as a person and as a player, and a very distinct part of his onstage personality. Sarah, it seems, really leans into the physicality and the emotive playing, this theatrics in her facial expressions and in her movements, and I think people are definitely divided on that in the steel guitar world. Now, probably in her rock shows, I'm sure that for those audience, that probably goes over in Europe quite well. Maybe it's more her real, true identity maybe is coming out, which ends up being kind of a blend of those first two phases of her career. Some of the songs that she likes to play in her show include Amazing Grace, the Titanic theme song, Cryin' by Roy Orbison, and City Lights by Ray Price. I'll show you now a clip of Sarah playing Highway 40 Blues, the arrangement by Bruce Boughton, which is a very difficult music to play on a pedal steel guitar, I would think. It certainly looks like it. A lot of blocking, a lot of speed picking. Let me know in the comments what you think of her version of it. Let me know in the comments what you think of this version. I think she kills it. I think she does a great job on this arrangement. Okay, so Sarah Jory's discography. Well, for her credits, there's probably a lot of stuff that she was not listed on. It does show here her playing on a Van Morrison album, Go to Nightclubs Anymore. So the albums of interest here are going to be for sure her debut record, 1981. Wow, she's really young here. 1981, it's called Sarah's Steel Line. She's doing all country stuff here. San Antonio Rose, Cold Cold Heart. Well, Danny Boy, not country, but a big steel guitar song. Yeah, she does Amazing Grace. Maybe for the first time she's recording it here. 1981. I mean, that's the year I was born. That's a long time ago. Sarah on Steel, 1984. And this stuff did come out on vinyl. Very, very hard to find, I think, now. She's doing Sticky Fingers, Cold Cold Heart, more country stuff here, Elusive Dreams. She's got one called Cross Country, 1985. This is also available as a vinyl record. There are a few copies of it for sale on Discoggs, actually. But aside from that, I think these would be pretty rare records. And what about this one? Deep in the Heart of Texas. Is this on... Okay, this is on CD. So around 1987, the stuff is just coming out on CD and cassette. Another record here. This is the one. Web of Love. This is a single that came out in 1994. And you can really see here that she's had the full makeover here from Public Relations Department. So at some point here, she really was making a push to become a headlining artist. Now this is interesting. This is a CD came out in 1993. This is the early years, 20 steel guitar favorites. So this is like a compilation of probably a lot of the stuff from those first 4 or 5 albums that came out. although I'm not sure if this is a re-recorded compilation or if it's a compilation of the original recordings. That I don't know, but someone can please tell me in the comments, because I know that somebody knows the answer to that question. And also, does anybody watching this video have any of these first albums? Does anyone out there have them on vinyl? Sarah's Steel line, Sarah on Steel, Cross Country, and I think this one came out. Yeah, this one came out on vinyl as well. The Way to Survive. Very interested to know if anybody watching this video owns a vinyl pressing of Sarah Jory. For videos of Sarah, and specifically videos on YouTube, I would say that she's going to have more videos than most of the artists that we normally show on this in this series. And of course, YouTube's a big part of her story. She's not exactly of the YouTuber generation, but she's in the first generation of artists that appeared on YouTube. And if you type in her name, you're going to see an endless amount of videos, but you're going to see a lot of playlists as well. So like, for example, these are some of her more popular videos. This one's 7.2 million views. This is the video of her doing Amazing Grace. For some reason, a lot of these videos were uploaded on the kids' YouTube channel, so you can't actually save the individual videos. You have to view them in playlists as a point of reference. I tell you that, but check out this video right here. This is Scott Holy's pedal steel guitar channel, and he's got the 40-minute interview here with Sarah. This was done very recently, yeah, 1 year ago. So if you want to see very recent video of her talking about her guitar, her setup, her endorsements, her playing, a bit about her biography and her history, you can check out this video here by Scott Holy. All right, Sarah Jory's legacy. Okay, what's her legacy going to be? Well, the world of female steel guitarists is a pretty small club for the most part. So Sarah is going to be remembered as you know, being one of the most visible female steel guitarists. Especially, I think YouTube is going to be a big part of her story and of her legacy, and how it's hard to overstate the role that her YouTube presence played in the rise of her career, and her as not just a steel guitar player, but sort of a star and somewhat of a celebrity in an international circuit of independent musicians. She'll be remembered for her rendition of Amazing Grace, her rendition of My Heart Will Go On. She's certainly always going to be remembered as a non-American player. She'll be remembered as being someone across the pond, as we say. I think a lot of people are going to go back and look at her chops as a steel guitarist is going to be one of the things that people talk about and remember her for a lot. Just how phenomenal of a player, of a technical pedal steel player she actually was, and even from an early age. She's on a very, very elite level, and certainly of the female steel guitarists, she might be considered the best female pedal steel guitarist of all time. I can't really say between her and Barbara Mandrell. I haven't done an A-B comparison of her and Barbara Mandrell in video, watching them to see who's the faster, more technical player. I suspect it's Sarah. I suspect she's the more technically proficient of the two, which might make her the most accomplished female pedal steel guitarist of all time, perhaps. These first 10 episodes, if I didn't say it previously, are sort of just a framework to get started. If there's a particular steel guitarist that you love, feel free to leave their name in the comments. I will be doing a video on just about every steel player I can think of at some point, but these first 10 episodes, I think, kind of important to lay a framework of the bigger picture of steel guitar as a whole. Thanks for sticking around. Keep it country, and yeah, we'll see you next time for another Stars of Steel